Talk about a little bit about founding the Alliance for Women Film Composers. And I know that I was with you at the same time, but I
Yeah.
want you to talk about it from your perspective. What are your thoughts about, the beginnings of it back in 2014 and where it's at now?
Ah, it's such a wonderful story about self-actualization for women composers. So basically, I've been in BMI since the 70s, and I've been scoring since the late 80s. So I've been going to the BMI, film awards forever. And every year it was the same thing. I always see a lot of my friends, guys, they're all composers, they're all up there getting awards, and there's like no women. Once in a while, a songwriter. Very rarely though. So in 2013, when we were in Spain, Doreen Ringer Ross, who was, the head of film and TV at BMI, did a panel which she put me and Rachel Portman on, and Beth Krakauer. May she rest in peace. And what was this panel? Women composers.
Because there was two in the same room. How did that happen?
Yeah, like what else would we talk about? So I remember, I don't know Rachel very well. I only met her that one time, and we hung out a little bit. But it wasn't like her favorite thing to talk about. She had gotten an Academy Award. She didn't need to talk about it, and really, it was really uncomfortable and unpleasant to talk about any of that. So most of us that were scoring, and at that time, I mean, Shirley Walker was before me, and I knew about her. And then I knew about Laura Cartman. And then I learned about Lolita. So the three of us would be in the room at BMI, during the awards going, hi, and there were a few other people that were Nan Schwartz, of course, the great Nan Schwartz. And so, it was so like when there's just a few of you, and this is really true of women in every area of life, we just don't want to, please don't make it about me being a woman. I just want to be, I'm a composer. And so the last thing you want to do is get on a panel in public and talk about your feelings about what it's like to be a woman composer. But I also realized, during the time when I was kind of rising a little more and getting interviewed about things, it always, every panel, every interview, what's it like to be a woman composer? And so it was mostly annoying. And then Laura and Lolita and I would go, I always get this question, And so then one day I just said, I'm going to try to think of something. They're going to ask it. I'm going to try to have something to say about it. It's interesting. And so between that happening and then the panel we did, after the panel in Spain, Doreen and I had dinner, and we were talking about it because it was a really successful panel, and it was packed, probably because of Rachel. But everybody was really interested, and they were asking a lot of interesting questions, and so we both kind of looked at each other and were like, I don't know, maybe, is there something we could do about this? It's really weird. And so she offered to host a cocktail party and invite a bunch of women in the business, not just composers, but music supervisors, songwriters, and from ASCAP and BMI. And so we had this cocktail party, and all of us were in this room looking at each other like, I've never even seen or heard of you. Like, how could that be? And so we were in this room and we started talking, and then we decided to have a luncheon, for the BMI writers. And so then at the luncheon, it was a lot more intimate. There were maybe 20 people or something. And we had this luncheon, this private conference room. And she asked us to tell stories about our experiences as women in this field. And it was it was really illuminating. I mean, people were getting sexually accosted. People were, scared to say anything about that. People were being completely excluded from opportunities when they found out they were a woman. I mean, it was really unbelievable. I mean, because I've always just been in my own world, and that's the way most composers are. We're kind of in our own world, don't think about the community much. That's changed a lot, but in the beginning, you just don't want to make any noise, So at that luncheon, we were all like, oh, now we really have to do something. So Laura and Lolita were there, of course, and Laura is so bold. Like, I'm always kind of quietly behind the scenes, and I'm mentoring and being all nice, but she's very bold. And so she had a lot of thoughts about it. And we decided to form a group, and we called a bunch of people, and got together and started talking. And it built from there. But what I can tell you is magnificent about it is the young women have taken over. I mean, I never wanted to run an organization, but I love what we do with it. What's been happening with the Alliance is we started with mentoring. We used ourselves as mentors and tried to create the kind of opportunities that young guys have when they come out of school. They go beeline right for the assistant jobs with very big composers, and they get lots of experience, whatever. And so we were trying to offer women that possibility, and boy, was their interest. Because basically, when you look at, it's like when we started doing research and looking at the numbers, it's not like we're whining when we say there need to be more women composers. I mean, they're literally 1% of all, studio released films are done by women. And that hasn't really changed much. Sometimes it's 2%. Television is doing better now. But the Alliance has become a well-respected, just like the SCL, and people come to the president and ask her for her opinion about things. And we're having a voice in this discussion. And it didn't hurt that right at that same time, Oscars So White was happening, there was just all these people were noticing. And there was a lot of public shaming of Hollywood and the entertainment business going on, and lots of new studies coming out of like how few, like women director has less of a chance of being a coal miner, more of a chance of she could be a coal miner before she could be a director, something like that. I mean, it was like, wow, we're not whining. This is just the way it is, So between all these things happening, what we have now is a situation where in television, we've seen a real change. We've seen the studios opening up and offering apprenticeships, mentorships. We've seen lots of big time male composers opening opportunities to mentor and hire younger women or women that are coming into the field. And so it's tremendous, and we still have lots of work to do, but it's been amazing. And the interest by the younger women, I mean, when I say younger, I'm in my 60s, I'm talking about people that are starting or mid-career even. It gives them way more opportunities to go for more jobs, than ever existed for me. I feel like I've been out there with a machete making a path, but I don't mind because I got where I wanted to go, and I was looking for something very specific.
Right.
I think that people who want to have a career as a film composer may not be that specific in the beginning until they discover what their passion might be. So I just say, take advantage. If you're a woman, join the SCL and the AWFC. Everybody should be in the SCL because it is our premier the group. They lobby in Congress for new legislation to protect our rights and also to protect our royalties. And that's something else I really want to say is that, it's wonderful to master your recording gear and be able to write music. But if you can't come up with a business model that's sustainable, you won't be able to do it very long. So you must develop that part of yourself. If you're going to be a lead composer, you must develop your entrepreneurial side and figure out where the opportunities are, how you can monetize it, and also become involved in the struggle to protect our copyrights and our performance royalties. That's a big part of how my business model became owning my own music and then getting at least a third to half my income from the back end of that. And because of that, I've been able to, use live musicians and not have to live on my music budget.